I realized my gouache container wasn't fully closed, and now all my paints are mostly dried out. But I'm not gonna buy any more paints. I'm gonna work with what I have. Plus, I can always just add water. I'm not buying $50 paints again. Always paranoid that I'm working on the wrong page. Because if that happens, I got a few ideas how to fix it, but I don't want to. So it's better to double check each time. I was drawing inside those books, that it actually did happen to me, but I could just rip out the page beforehand. But this journal has an exact number of pages, so I can't really be doing that here. So this is going to be the first of the Island Head Beast page. It's going to be a 2-page spread, but we're only going to be working on the first one. It's going to be a lot going on here. It looks like this page is kind of moldy, kind of got some heavy water damage, which makes sense. You know, he'd be out in island area, which is covered in water. So it would make sense that these pages get a little water damage to them. More so than the damage that would have already occurred out in the forest. So I'm going to be adding a lot of different layers here. Right here, we're going to go ahead and add a few extra layers of green to this corner. And that's just to simulate some of that moldy look to it. And I'm also going to be adding a little bit of gray around the main subject. Gotta be a little careful here. I don't want to weather the next page yet, so just a little scrap paper just to protect it. Now, as far as that gray surrounding the main subject, it kind of looks like maybe, you know how like pencil markings will kind of smudge, especially when you're drawing? It kind of looks like that, but I want to avoid using a pencil for this. In the past, whenever I made a pencil drawing, it tends to transfer over to the next page over. And I don't want that happening here. I'd hate to see the main island on both pages, if that makes any sense. I'm sure you've seen that yourself. So I'm going to see what I can do with just some gouache. Obviously, it's not going to mimic pencil markings perfect, but we can get something nice anyways. So starting with the 01 pen and kind of working my way up to a 05, I'm going to go ahead and try to mimic as much of that cross-hatching as I can. And the cross-hatching here is really messy, so we're going to try our best to mimic that. There's no real coherent pattern going on here. You can kind of see a pattern underneath, but then it kind of turns into a sporadic scribble markings everywhere. It definitely looks less planned out for sure, because you can see the drawing on top of it. That's going to be really nice and coherent. But those cross-hatching marks on the bottom almost look like when you're just trying to come up with something and you're just kind of free drawing. For this top drawing right here, I'm going to be using a 01 pen mostly, just because all the line work is going to be really thin and it's going to get really easy to lose a lot of details here. And to make sure that I keep up the pattern of adding white highlights to my trees, I'm just going to add a little bit of white inside that tree pattern. And don't forget the little yellow right there. Couldn't tell you what that is. And since it's kind of difficult to tell what's going on between the trees and the little island, I'm going to add a little bit of acrylic just to separate it. And then for the giant tooth, I'm just going to add a little bit of a tannish color. Nothing too crazy. When it dries, it's going to be extremely subtle and almost going to be non-existent once you add the cross-hatching. Then it looks like we got a little map down here in the bottom. And similar, we're going to use mostly a 01 pen for that. And then for all the thicker lines, we'll use a 08. And then the same thing here for the giant tooth. We're going to use a 08 for the outline and work our way down to a smaller number. Looks like a frowny face. Do you see that? And I'll also use that 08 for the title there. And just a few minor highlights. And then for the main title of the page, the Island Head Beast, we're going to use a 1 for that. Bled over a little bit, but no big deal. A couple of black splatters just so it looks like the ink spilled a little bit. And then we can go ahead and work on the red sections. And so for all the red sections, I've been using a red Sharpie. And as long as I'm careful and don't overdo it, it won't bleed over to the page before. And then for some reason, we got some bright yellow ink stains. Not sure what's up with that. This would imply that he's carrying more supplies with him, because we also have some brownish green color splattered around this page too. And so once we mix up our color, we're just going to go ahead and add that to a few select areas. First one's on top of this page right here. And then we have a few more by the title, Is There a Creature Beneath the Island? And so now that we're done with our main drawing, let's go ahead and work on the message of the page. And the message of the page is stating that they found a boulder that kind of looked like a tooth, even showing some evidence of nerve tissue, which led to the theory that perhaps this is an actual creature under here, because the island isn't always in the same place each day. And I'm not sure what the other side of this page is going to say for the blacklight, but this one says, head of the household? I don't think so. Hopefully the next page sheds some light on what this message might mean. So, crazy thing happened yesterday. I accidentally deleted all my settings on CapCut, but I was super lucky. I had saved my intro and my color correction template into the cloud, and the only thing I ended up losing was my outro, which was easily remade.